Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Sejanus' fall, and we're going to get to hear from Macro today in Act 5, Scene 3, which, oh my goodness, means that Act 5, Scene 2 didn't have any monologues in it, which is totally fair because it's only about 12 lines long, and it's between two people, so none of it was going to qualify for a monologue. But anyway, Act 5, Scene 1, we had Sejanus saying that he's like even more worthy of becoming a god than he is of becoming an emperor. So his ego is as big as it can be right now. But Terentius was like, there's all these omens, maybe make one more sacrifice to the gods. And Sejanus was like, okay, you silly, but all right, I'll make a sacrifice to the goddess Fortune, and you'll see how stupid all of your concerns are once that's done and nothing bad happens to me. And that was Act 5, Scene 1. Act 5, Scene 2, which is super short, is just between Cotta and Pomponius, and they run into each other in a room in Sejanus' house because Pomponius is on his way to tell Sejanus that Macro has returned and is over at Regulus' house. This is a big deal because Regulus is not part of the Sejanus faction. Regulus is on the opposite side. He's more on the Agrippina side of things. So this is big news because, Cotta and Pomponius are on Sejanus' side, and they've seen that Macro, who is supposed to be on Sejanus' side, is actually over at Regulus' house. So they're like, sound the alarms, he's in the wrong place, or maybe he's conspiring against us, and this could be a bad thing. And that's basically the end of the scene. Like I said, it's 12 lines long, it's not a big deal. Act 5, Scene 3, we're over at Regulus' house where Macro is talking to Regulus, and there's like a bunch of assorted servants around. And this whole scene, to me, has this very frenetic energy. I'm picturing either somebody playing the part of a wedding planner or somebody playing the part of a political campaign manager. Like, imagine one of those scenes that you've seen in movies or TV where somebody's like, okay, you do this, and now you do this, and now you do that. Oh, and you also need to do this. And who's getting me coffee? Like, it's one of those scenes, and Macro is being that person. So he's talking to Regulus, and he's like, we need to get all of the senators together, and it's really important that they show up. So anybody that doesn't show up, threaten them with like really hefty fines for not showing up. Make sure that they get here, and the attendant leaves to start delivering letters. And Macro's like, you remember where they're supposed to be and what time they're supposed to be there? And Regulus is like, yes, we got all this. And Laco comes in, and Macro welcomes him, but then turns back to Regulus again to finish his instructions that he needs to find the full list of people. He wants the cohorts, he wants the guards, he wants the who's important, who's not, all of this stuff. And Regulus is like, yes, I'm on top of it, and starts to head out again. And Macro turns to Laco, and he's like, Tiberius is healthy, this is great. And then he's like, Regulus, you left already, and I'm not done talking to you. So Regulus comes back in, and he gives him some more orders about, I need to know who the important people are on the list, and I need to know, like, are they bringing their guards with them? Are they bringing other people? It's like, you need to get all this together. And Regulus is like, yep. And Macro turns back to Laco, and he says, most worthy Laco, Caesar salutes you. And Regulus leaves. Consul Death and Fury's gone now? The argument will please you, sir. Ho! Regulus! The anger of the gods, follow your diligent legs and overtake them in likeness of the gout. So Regulus comes back in. Oh, my good lord, we lacked you present. I would pray you send another to Fulcinus Trio, straight, to tell him you will come and speak with him. The matter will devise to stay him there, while I, with Laco, do survey the watch. Regulus leaves. What are your strengths, Gracinius? So this isn't really a monologue. This is directing traffic. He says hi to Laco, and Regulus leaves to go do the things. Then he's like, oh, Regulus, you're such an idiot. You've left already. God plague you with terrible gouty legs. And Regulus comes back in, and he's like, okay, we were missing you just a second. There's one more letter that you need to send. You need to go to Fulcinus Trio and tell him that you're going to come and talk to him. And when you get there, you're going to just find some way to delay him and distract him and make sure that he stays there while Laco and I are going to go survey the watch. So Regulus leaves to go do that, and he turns back to Laco, and he's like, how many men do you have? That's what he means by what are your strengths, is how many soldiers, how many fighters, how strong is your fighting faction? So Laco responds that he has 7 cohorts, and Macro wants to know if he knows how many guards Sejanus has, and Laco thinks it's like 3 or 4, but he doesn't know exactly who they are, but the council should know, and Macro's like, okay, great, Tiberius holds you in very high esteem, and he's counting on you to help with this, and like you're gonna be very, very much rewarded if we are successful in this. And Laco's like, but how are you gonna go about doing this without raising suspicions? And Macro's like, look, the Senate is all coming together. They've all been told that they all need to come together at this super early hour at the temple, like really, really early in the morning. And Regulus then spits out that they have a commission to take over the palace and install Drusus as their chief. And Macro's like, oh, just go do what it is that you're supposed to be doing right now and get out of my hair. And he turns to Laco, he's like, that's like the last resort plan. He wasn't supposed to say anything about that. So then Regulus comes back in, and now he has some servants with him. So Macro turns to each of the servants, and he's like, all right, take these letters to Aruntius, and you take these ones to Lepidus, and you take these ones to Cota, and you take these to Letarius, and tell if they ask about me, say that like I'm on my way. And then he sends Regulus off to do his part in going to Fulcinus Trio to delay him. And Macro and Laco are going to go gather up the guards, because once they get all the Senate together, they need to make sure that there are guards present, because, you know, it's the entire Senate coming together for a meeting. And Macro's like, but everybody be careful what you're doing, because there's spies everywhere, and they're out even in the middle of the night like it is right now too. So just everybody be careful. And that's the end of Act 5, Scene 3. So kind of an interesting vibe in this scene that's so like, you do this and you do this, and then getting interrupted. And I do sort of love Macro getting really frustrated with Regulus like leaving too early and having to call him back and say, oh, and one more thing, and oh, and one more thing, and oh, and one more thing. It's just, to me, it's a very different vibe than most of the rest of the scenes in the play, because it feels like it has this sort of frenetic energy of, we need to get this meeting together, we need to make sure that the guards are there, we need to have all the right people there, all those sorts of things. But yeah, we don't really know what it is they're doing yet, except maybe installing Drusus, or maybe not installing Drusus, depending on how Tiberius is feeling that day. So anyway, I promise you we will learn more about this meeting before the end of the play, but for now, that's the end of Act 5, Scene 3. So we're going to stop there, and we will pick things up tomorrow in Act 5, Scene 4, because we also got to figure out what Sejanus is doing while all of this is going on. So I'll see you then. Mwah.